This is Tilted Podcast.
What's up, guys? This is going to be a little bit of a fun time, I think. I'm here with Anthony and Brad. Definitely the two coolest people I know on the planet Earth about sports. Somehow I got conjured into this podcast thing, which I never said I would ever do, but Anthony's probably what I would relate to as a brother. So here I am. We're going to talk about college, real heavy into college. This podcast is a lot about football, so hopefully you guys enjoy. I'm going to pass it off to Anthony, let him talk about what he wants to on what he feels new about college, especially this new 12-team playoff. Kind of cool.
Hey, hold on, Horton, real quick. Happy birthday, Anthony. Let's get going.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's get going.
You old son of a gun. Jesus.
I know, man. I'm getting old.
All the grays are coming in. I see them. Oh, don't worry. Mine are right here.
Hey, don't talk about gray. Don't talk about gray. We don't talk about gray hair.
We're not mentioning
Not in here, because you notice I'm wearing a hat, and there's a reason why.
Yeah,
we're not mentioning the
Thanks, guys.
senior citizen discount in here, Brad. Sorry.
I'm not quite there, but I'm working on it.
Man.
But,
yeah, so I think it's a lot of changes in college football this year. For this upcoming season, including obviously the playoffs. So we're gonna go through that. One of the biggest things that I've seen, obviously we're gonna go in deep into the playoff, but the biggest change that I've seen that I think is gonna make the biggest difference is the divisions within the conferences. So for years, you always had, and I'm going to be a homer guy when all my references are homers. So like for years, you had the one side of the Big Ten where you had Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Then the other side of the Big Ten where you had Iowa, Purdue. So the ongoing joke was whoever won the Michigan-Ohio State game for the majority of the years, that was the Big Ten championship game. So now you flip over, you got Michigan-Ohio State playing in Thanksgiving weekend. And then if it's like it's been the last 2 years where they're still the two best teams in the conference, they're just going to play each other again 2 weeks later. And then they might run into each other in the playoffs.
The third time, right into the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a major change. And obviously that's going to – I think the teams that come into these playoffs are going to be battle tested. I think there's going to maybe be some 2-3 loss teams getting into this playoff. So I think it will be interesting. I think we need to get away from the whole it's going to have to be, 11-0, 12-0, 10-1 to get into the playoff. I think we're going to have to understand our teams are probably going to take some lumps along the way.
I really think you're going to have a 3-loss team, maybe even a 4-loss team that could potentially make it into the playoffs. Like, and it could be gross to think of that. Like, Michigan this year has a very stout strength of schedule. Like, they're just playing a lot of good teams. And, they're still good. That's the problem. They may go lose a game or two by a field goal or a touchdown and have 3 losses and still fall into the top 12. Like, it's mind-boggling to see what we're going to run into. It's exciting for sure.
And you know what? Talk about homerism. I'm the same thing, SEC. It's the same thing there, right? We're all used to seeing the East and the West. Everybody's together, right? At Texas and Oklahoma. We'll just have to see how it goes. I mean, and another thing about this major shift is just the travel, man, for interconference. I mean, the Big Ten, the travel is ridiculous. Talk about teams having to go from the West Coast to places like Rutgers, right? I mean, it's insane. So it's their major impact, right? How do these teams adjust to travel? How do they adjust to being prepared, right? How do they set their schedule? A lot of different things compared to what they were doing, for many years. So a lot of adjustment for sure.
Yeah, I think that's where, like, I kept thinking, whoever gets into this playoff, whoever makes it to the semifinals or the finals, like they had been through it. They've traveled a lot of miles. They've battled the toughest teams. And I think this is going to be our truest outlook on the coaching. It's not even about the players. It's about the coaching staff and how you organize that travel and how, sometimes you see NFL teams go to where they're going to play like a week early, that way they have, they get used to the time zone, and like from top to bottom, how the organizations adapt to this is going to be crazy to see. That's right. I did have one question. I wanted to flip it to Brad. So we talked about changes. There's been a little bit of change in Alabama, just a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to get your take on that and what you thought about Kalen DeBoer and obviously not having Nick Saban there anymore.
I mean, it's big adjustment, obviously, right? We're as Bama fans, I think we're a little nervous. Uh, I'm excited about who we got, right? I mean, the guy's innovative, right? He's already taken teams to the pinnacle. He's been there. He's been close, right? I think him being able to be in Alabama, having that recruiting advantage, I think may put him over the top with the way he works. Obviously we're going to miss Nick. There's no way around it, right? And um, we're definitely, I would say we're on edge. Would be the way we're going about it. But I think you'll see at the end of the podcast, definitely feel strong about how they're going to do. I don't feel like there's going to be a big fallback. I think Alabama is still going to be, in the running for the championship. I think it may kind of, maybe some battle tested things in the beginning that, I'm not quite sure about yet. How do we approach Georgia when they show up, right? We've always had pretty good success against Georgia under Nick. How does that go? So those are all the things I'm excited about. But the thought of Jalen playing in DeBoer's offense is exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm I'm ready to go as far as that aspect. And the overall moves when it comes to college football. You know me, I'm referred to as a boomer in some of our fantasy leagues and other things. I'm not a big fan of it, right? I like the way it used to be, but we got to adjust, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
The one thing I'll say, I'm not a big Bama fan. I'm not at all a big college fan. I've never really dove into it until this year. I'm really starting to get into it. At the end of the day, like DeBoer, man, just looking at his overall, like, what he's done. I mean, as a head coach, he's 104-12 as a head coach.
Yep.
Yeah, it may not just be the NCAA. It was the NAIA and also the GPAC, but the dude is a winning coach, like Harbaugh, a winning coach. Nick Saban, a winning coach. He's going to a team that's built to win, that has
Yep.
tradition of winning. And it's been a little bit of a tough time for Alabama. They had some bumps. I think they're going to have some pretty big bumps this year. Nick Saban leaving was like a humongous blow to that morale for some of those players. I'm almost positive. What did you guys lose? Like 39. I think it was like 39 total, like walk-ons and scholarships. But
Yeah.
DeBoer's good, man. He came in and brought 14 more scholarships in, got a bunch of good transfers. Like, he's not a guy that's shy about wanting to win, and he shows that. Obviously, 104-12 is pretty impressive at any level of sports. Like, let's be honest. 12 losses at a college level, don't matter if it's the lowest. It's still good coaching, He's got
Yeah.
people that want to go with him, and that's where I think it was a great choice for him to go to Alabama.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. There's obviously more coaching changes that happen. There's
A lot.
yeah, I think for me and my homer side, we got Sherrone Moore stepping in as coach for Michigan. Pretty much everybody went with him, so he has a whole new staff around him. But the one thing when I listen to a lot of different podcasts is that they see everything's the same in Michigan. I don't know if you guys had a chance to listen to Joe Klatz, but when he talked about his top 25, but when he's visited both Alabama and Michigan, the difference there is that everything's different in Alabama and nothing's different at Michigan. So although there is a new coach, new defensive coordinator, I think it's a lot of the same. So I think what we're going to see on the field is going to be a lot of the same, but the outcome we'll just see because we have a lot of roster turnover there. So I'm excited. And then there's that team in Columbus that picked up had to go out of their way to go recruit Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator to try to compete. So that's
Yeah.
going to be interesting to see that dynamic between Ryan Day and Chip Kelly on the offensive side of the ball. Personally hope for implosion, but we will see what happens there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be exciting to watch. This is probably the most excited I've been about college, other than growing up and watching guys I played ball against or know personally that went to play in college. This is a cool time, man. It's a great time. Me and you, Anthony, were talking about the time to be alive for football, man. From December to January is just insanity. Every day there's big games for 15 days straight. like all
Yeah,
the way to
it's
till
quite the holiday
it's
schedule.
like, man, you better buckle up and get ready for this ride because it's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
You know something else that that's going to be interesting, and the thing that I like about the expansion to 12 is the automatic group of five conference. Whoever they end up going with, right? Somebody from outside is automatically going to get in. It's going to give somebody a chance. Whether that's a team from the AAC like Memphis or UTSA, or my favorite there would be a Boise State, coming out of the Mountain West, or I really was in between, you know, Boise State or Liberty. I ended up thinking kind of, who's my outside team that I think has a chance to kind of make that leap, right? That's not in the top 25, that has a chance to make the college football playoff. I kind of lean towards Boise State. I kind of like the way their schedule kind of stacks up. The only kind of real competition there is UNLV and Fresno State. I think Fresno State's kind of the one that is going to kind of give them that one conference game that really makes them get through. But they're bringing back a great running back and a guy that a big sack guy. Their kind of favorite is the two big favorite big conference guys in that division. So it's kind of exciting to kind of see a team like even a Texas State, right, or a Troy, if they happen to be the conference champion and they run the table, they're going to be in the top 12. Can you imagine somebody like them facing like a SEC championship,
Yeah, it's gonna
losing team like Bama or Georgia in the first round, right? Like, hey, you think you deserve a shot? Here you go, right? You got, let's say Bama upsets Georgia. You got them. Let's go. Let's see what you
Yeah.
are. So that's another aspect that I'm excited about watching.
Yeah, that's a great transition kind of right into the playoff. Like what this is going to bring. And like at first when I started reading into this playoff and listening to everything, I wasn't obviously the most excited about that group of five because I was like, I feel like you still don't get the 12 best teams.
Yep.
But when I think about it more and more, you get those teams an opportunity that built good programs. I think all of us are from the Bakersfield area, so it's like Fresno State. I mean, if they were sneak in, like I think that would be great for that program. That'd be great for the community there, and that would be the good exposure. Obviously, I think it's going to be a lot of what you seen last year in Liberty against Oregon. And they got into
Yep.
that the New Year's Six games and they lost 45-6. I think you'll probably see a lot of that. But at the end of the day, I think it'd be great exposure for the school and the students and all of that. So
and that's
Yep.
big because the NIL, like there's money that needs to be spent, and it gives those low end schools who just don't have that recruiting ability as well to be able to be like, hey, bro, we're going to be number 12. We got the fifth pick because it's that. And I'm still trying to understand how they're going to pick the conference, like what group 5 that it's going to be. If it's the overall strength of the entire conference, or I have no idea. I got to
so
do a little more
basically
research in how they're going to pick it.
what it is, Tyler, is that they go the highest ranked
Ranked.
conference champion. That's not the 5 highest ranked conference champions. We
Right.
automatically know and we assume it's going to be Big 10, ACC, SEC, and Big 12. Like those are going to be 1 through 4, pretty much a lock. And then that 5th one is going to be okay. Let's say Boise State's ranked 23rd, and they are the highest ranked team or champion out of those other 5
Yeah.
conference, Sun Belt, all that, Mountain West. It'll be that team. So it's
Okay.
not necessarily they're gonna pick a conference. They're just gonna go down their rankings and go, okay, this team is 23rd. They're the highest ranked conference champions out of these 5, and then they're gonna go to the playoffs. So they could not even necessarily be ranked in the top 25. They could be ranked 28th, 29th,
Yep.
but still had won their conference and they're gonna get in.
Yeah, and that in what we found out, it doesn't put them at 5th, which we thought it
No.
did. Like, wow, that'd be crazy. They just go to
I
no,
thought at first I did, yeah.
it drops them to the 12th slot no matter what. They go 12. If
Yeah.
they're not now, if they're ranked 8th when they get picked, they stay at 8, which is that's cool to know. They don't lose their rank, but they don't just automatically go to 5th and get to play a less in team. Which at the end of the day, I think this only benefits these small schools. Having these opportunities to be able to be like, hey, we made the college playoff. Like, there's a chance for you to be a starter here.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I mean, I think we kind of transitioned to Brad picking his dark horse, which is Boise State. Brad, who's your team that you think's out of the top 25? Which I'll transition over to that. which right now we're looking to look at this is the AP top 25 ranking. Who do you think's like just in the top 25 right now that's going to struggle?
Well, oh man, this is a tough one. I ended up kind of zeroing in on Clemson. I, you know, they're in it. They're always going to be in it, right in the in the ACC. I just feel like Dabo has struggled in the portal, right? It just feels like he hasn't quite adjusted in the portal and the NIL, and um, but teams like Florida State and Miami have. So
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that it's so much Clemson falling back, but I think by the end of the season, Florida State, Miami, the impact that their coaches have had in those areas, right? They've done nothing but positive in that area. So it just feels to me like Clemson is the team that's going to end up with maybe 3 losses, maybe 4, right? Like I don't. It just feels like to me Clemson is the one. I just as much as I feel like Boise State is the one that's sitting on the outside going to end up in. It just feels like Dabo's, he's got a great, record. But if you look at the last few years and you look at the way Florida State's kind of been, coming on, and Miami, and that's the way I'm leaning. I would have to go with Clemson.
Okay. Anthony,
What do you think?
Well, see, man, here's the thing. I've always been a USC fan, and I think USC's got the idea of what they want to do. I just don't think they're ready. I think USC is going to be in a position to. It takes 4 games to go the wrong way, and they're out. I mean, there's so many good schools, and I know that USC has got a young quarterback coming in that's a stud. It's a very similar to Caleb Williams style quarterback. I think the defense is going to be way freaking better. They had some bad schemes. It just the defense looks horrendous last year. Probably one of the worst in college, in my opinion. You don't have the best quarterback in football coming in the longest time talked about, and don't go at least attempt to play in the playoffs, and just flop like they flopped like. And it wasn't offense. They were putting up 45 points a game.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think they lost like 4 games. Was it 4 or 5 games last year where they
scored 40 points? 40. Yeah, like how does that happen? That should never happen. Now they did a good job, and I can't remember the coach that they brought in, but I know they're making. I still just don't think they're ready. I think they lost a lot of talent. They were super hyped up. They lost really good wide receiver. They lost a really good running back. They lost a really good quarterback. Like, it's just everything kind of is slowly falling apart. Now, I think the coaching's there. They just need the players back. Weirdly enough, this is a kind of a shock in my. You guys probably gonna laugh at me. I think Tulane is gonna be sneaky, funny, good.
Yep.
At the last 2 seasons, they've won 23 games. Yeah, they're in a weaker, conference. They did lose their head coach, Willie Fritz. He went to Houston. Houston's been they've been in the top 25 the last 3 years. They're obviously he's a good coach. But it's not like they went and got a new coach. The assistant to Willie Fritz is going to be John Summerall, and he took over as head coach. So the only issue I have is Liberty could slide in and take this spot from Tulane. It's the only thing that makes me a little nervous because Liberty's pretty good. But at the end of the day, like when I'm just looking at it, like SMU is really not in the mix anymore over there. They did get the addition of that highly recruited Ty Thompson from Oregon. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel went over there, so he knows he's not playing. So he transferred to Tulane. And they also, like I said, Mario Williams from USC, very good wide receiver, is at Tulane. Shaz Preston from Alabama at Tulane. Like, they've got major weapons over there, and I think they're going to sneak into the playoffs, and they're potential to be a little bit of a tick on the leg that you're not ready for because they've got a powerful offense that nobody's really paying attention to. But it's Tulane, so who knows?
And you know what? I was back and forth with Tulane and Liberty because, man, I looked at all the additions to Tulane. Liberty had some additions. Once the quarterback from Liberty decided to come out of the portal and go back in, I'm like, all right, I'm going to lean Liberty, but I agree with you, Tyler.
It's weird, man.
They're legit, man. With the way the portal opens things up, all these teams can just make all these moves and get in. I love that part of it.
It's definitely changed college football completely.
Well, look, the coaches do what they want in the end, right? Like, let's just be real. I had a son that experienced it, right? A different sport, but coaches do what they want. players have got to have a little bit of flexibility. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, being
Yeah,
forced
I
to
do.
stay
I
at
do
one
too.
spot is insane. How do you think that that's going to work? You got
Yep.
guys that are stuck. You're a 5-star recruit coming out of college, number 5 in the nation or number 1 in the nation, and then very next year a quarterback that's better than you at a 5-star freshman coming in. You're like, oh, I'm the sophomore. Don't mean you're going to be the starter. That guy
That's
can
right.
come in, be bigger than you, faster than you, better arm, everything. So this allows them to expand their chances. Like Dylan Gabriel. Let's be honest, man. This dude's what's his 6th year playing in college. How crazy is this? COVID did some weird shit, man.
Ain't no doubt.
Yeah, dude. It's funny you guys bring up Tulane because this is gonna hit home for you, Horton. But I think one of the teams that are gonna struggle big time this year is OU. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have a lot to do
Yep.
with the personnel. I think Jackson Arnold's a stud. I don't know. I've watched him a little bit. I have a really good customer of mine that's a big OU fan. So if we talk about Jackson Arnold all last year, he was ready for Dylan Gabriel to go away, and Jackson Arnold will be the starter all last season. But when I think of the strength of schedule, just when I thought Michigan's strength of schedule was crazy, OU's takes it, right?
Yeah.
So obviously they get started off with with Temple. That's going to be a cakewalk. But then Houston's no slouch. Then Tulane comes in. They go right into Tennessee. They're at Auburn. They're home for Texas. Play South Carolina, Ole Miss, Missouri, Alabama, and LSU to finish up. So I'm not necessarily saying they're done forever. I think this is going to be a really tough year for that quarterback coming in as a first-year starter.
Yeah, no, I 100% don't disagree with that. I think he's unfortunately coming into the powerhouse of of football. Like you're just walking in, you're not getting a free easy run. It's just it's going to be a challenge for him. It was a challenge last year. Defense was a struggle last year. I agree with you 100% though.
So
Who's your go-to? Yeah, who's your go-to?
My go-to team. This is going to make Brad cringe a little bit. I think Colorado's going to win their conference. I think
Yeah.
Big 12. I think I'm obviously I've been a huge Deion fan since I was a kid, and I think they have the best quarterback in college, one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I think he's neck to neck with Jalen Milroe. I think he has one of the best weapons in Travis Hunter. Their skill positions are off the charts. They have Warren Sapp now helping on their defensive line. I look at that conference compared to like an ACC, and it's kind of a crapshoot. There's a lot of good teams, but there's not any real powerhouse teams, right? Like you're not dealing with the Big Ten and the SEC. So I think they get in there. Now, obviously, Utah is a monster. Utah is a great organization, great team, but I just think Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter are two of the best, probably 2 top 5 picks in the NFL next year. And I think they get that conference. And I think they go from, 4 wins last year to 10 or 11 this year for sure.
I'll side note you on that. If Colorado can figure out their defense, they're going to be scary. That was their offense struggled a little bit because their defense just could not hold the hands. They were just continuously allowing teams to just move the ball freely. I mean, that Oregon game was pretty gross. It wasn't even a game. It was pretty embarrassing. I think we all I don't know if any of you watched it. Most of us probably watched the highlights, and it was Oregon showed Colorado who was in charge. But at the end of the day, go ahead, Red.
No, I agree on the skill positions with Anthony, but the game's won down, in the trenches, and I just don't feel like they have it. It just doesn't feel like they have it to me. It feels like they're walking into, a conference that's even got, a little better substance there now. The way that everything's kind of put together with the 4 solid conferences, it's a bold pick. It really is. I love it. But I don't see it.
That Big 12 is crazy. I mean, you got Arizona, Oklahoma State University, which nobody's really talking about. Texas Tech, which are not great, but they're still once again a thorn in the side, man. Houston, not a slouch, like you said. Utah, in my opinion, that division, that conference, is Oklahoma State or Utah. That's hands down.
Where I'm at.
They're the juggernauts there. I think Oklahoma State's a lot better than a lot of people realize. But also everything's changed. So let's see how it plays out. But I do like Colorado, man. I think you're not wrong. There's some skill. I mean, there's some skill there. If they can figure out how to maneuver that and conjure it up and use it against teams, they can be very good.
Well, we've talked so much about NIL and transfer portal and being player movement, player mobility. Like people want to play for Dion, and they added a ton on the offensive
Where's my
line.
glasses?
They've added a ton. They added a ton on the defensive line, a ton on the defensive side of the ball. So obviously you got to get on the field and make it work. But I also think that this is a heart pick too, because I am fingers crossed and praying that Shador Sanders is wearing the silver and black next year.
Oh Lord!
And I am. It is happening. He is coming to Vegas.
You know who
Dion,
should be wearing
Dion
it, though?
Dion will not allow him to go to somewhere else. That's going to happen. And I don't even know if that makes sense, but that's the. I know that's probably selling my year out of the way on the pro level, but Shador Sanders, Las Vegas Raider, Super Bowl champ. It's going to happen. So he's going to go out by winning the Big 12.
It doesn't even need to make sense for you.
It
just want it to happen.
It absolutely doesn't. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Until they get the number 1 pick and draft a fucking defensive player.
No, it'll
just like
if they have
just like the
pick,
Raiders. Just like the Raiders could have had CJ Stroud.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Like,
Let's
come on.
not get distracted.
Let's hold on.
Let's not get distracted.
Some people need
Lord.
that organization needs some help. They need to let some people just walk out that door. And man, how many? Let's start naming quarterbacks you guys have walked away from. Like,
that's a different conversation.
We've had phone calls and phone calls on that.
You're gonna get me fired up on my birthday, brother. I got things.
Make the Raiders great again.
Yes.
2037.
So before 2037. Before we jump into the brackets, which we all three of us have individual, like I would say our way out of reach projections of what the 12 is going to be. Let's talk Heisman a little bit, real quick, if you guys are okay with that.
Let's do it.
I'll go ahead and fold this over here. So, man, this is a pretty stout list, in my opinion. There's a lot of good ball players here. And obviously this is kind of a homer thing, like you said. I watched Dylan Gabriel a lot in OU. The dude can play ball, man. Like just looking at like his overall numbers, he's a veteran. He's going into a situation, a really, really damn good team with a really good head coach that I think we can all agree is going to be a national championship coach at some point. Like he's young, he's ready, he's hungry. I really do think that Oregon is going to be good for a while. Just the big things about him. I mean, when I say veteran, he played for University of Central Florida from 19 to 21, then went to OU for the 2 years. Like, listen to these stats for a second as a college player. He's got a 63% pass in 1,600 attempts with 14,000 yards with a 8.9% yards per attempt. 125 touchdowns and 26 interceptions. That's but let's remember he's played for, a lot of years. It's not like he's just played a couple years. He does got a quarterback rating of a 159. I just think the kid's good, man, and he's in a really, really good, strong team.
I don't disagree with you. And I think that there's going to be, we talked about this, we talked about the playoff, like battle-tested people, how tough this season's going to be, and having those quarterbacks the teams that have returning quarterbacks and as many returning players, I think are going to be better. Obviously, you don't want to, like some of these first-year starters and whatnot, like in Ohio and stuff like that. Like, we'll see, right? You don't know what it's going to look like. And then, by the way, you're going to be finding out what it looks like while you are going through this season and this playoff and this massive conference. So I think these any of these quarterbacks that are returning quarterbacks like Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers or Jalen Milroe or any of those players, I think that's a huge advantage for them.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I kind of have my top three, right? Like I obviously my winner is a homerism pick, guys. I mean, I'm all about it, man. I'm riding the Milroe train. So, and it's him, Beck, and Gabriel. I got Gabriel finishing second, right? Like Horton mentioned, man, the guy is he's a freak, man. So it just feels to me like this year is set up for Jalen in a way that he's grown. We didn't get to really see him in an offense that was this spread heavy. Built for somebody like him. It for me, it just feels like Jalen's going to put up huge stats this year. I've got him finishing first with barely eking out Gabriel. I'm back and forth on it. I'm with Horton. I'm struggling. It's definitely a homer pick in the end. And I got Beck right there, right? Like I really feel like Bama and Georgia are going to end up battling it out just like normal. Beck's going to put up huge numbers. Kirby and the guys are going to put them in a good position like always. Georgia's going to be up there. So those are the guys, right? Like how does Dylan, adjust to the new system? I think he's going to do great. I don't see much of an issue. I expect Oregon to do well. I know Anthony doesn't. He thinks that they're not going to be well. I mean, I know that you don't think that they're tough enough up front.
Yeah.
I think that and I agree. I'm an upfront guy, right? But
Yeah,
I
me too.
think that spread is going to cause issues for some of the Big Ten teams, right? So and what they do. So I'm excited about it, but that's how I have it finishing up.
What do you got, Tyler?
Well, like I said, I'm in the same boat. The only reason I'm really picking Dylan Gabriel here as my number one. I do got Beck right behind him. I like Milroe. Weirdly enough, I like Jackson Dart, man. I think he can
Yep.
squeeze up in there quietly because Ole Miss, man, they just got a good little squad. They've got a host of returners. Like, I mean, the amount of returners they've got coming back is crazy. And let's think of their 2 losses. Like, they were 11-2 last year. Alabama, Georgia. That's it. Everybody else they beat.
No
They
shame.
dom-
No
they-
shame in losing to those teams.
it like dominated other teams, and then they go beat Penn State in the Peach Bowl. Like I just think like Jackson Dart in the 2 years, 6,000 passing yards, 43 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, like high level transfers were coming in. I just think the defense is going to be strong. He's going to get the ball a lot. It's just, I don't know. It's going to be good, man. There's so many. Like, and
I think you just talked yourself out of Dylan Gabriel and talked
I
yourself
love
into
it.
Jackson Dart.
I do like
I think
Dart.
that's what just happened.
I do like Dart a lot. I think Gabriel's they're just gonna score way more. I think Oregon's gonna score a lot. They have to, because at the end of the day, I agree with you, Anthony. Up front, they're not the strongest. It's gonna be quick passes. What's Dylan Gabriel good at? It's like kind of similar to a Niner system where it's just your quick short routes and let your yak players yak, bro. Let them yak out. They're gonna make the plays for you. Let your running back do his job. Let your wide receivers do your 5-yard cut routes, do your screens. Like, this spread offense it's dangerous if they don't get the ball out quick. Gabriel has proven he likes to get the ball out quick. That's why at OU he was good, but I just don't think it was built for him. OU likes to really try to stretch and get deep passes, and he likes the quick pass route. He's that's the only reason I think it's gonna work well for him. Obviously Beck, come on, man. Like, Georgia's just stupid good. They're always good, always gonna be good. It sucks to say it, but they're always gonna be good. Milroe, the only thing I worry about, like I said, is the transfer situation. They lost a lot of guys. But at the end of the day, man, it's still Alabama. And Pat McAfee cheers me on every time I watch the video when he, sings the Georgia Bulldog song and then basically tells everybody to F off and says roll tide, like
The greatest.
the greatest moment in college
That's
football.
the greatest clip.
Yeah. Pat McAfee, if you see this, I love you. You're awesome. Thanks.
Look, as an Alabama fan, the only thing would be better is if he was shitting on Auburn. Let's just be real.
Now, Anthony, let's hear you, man. I know you're kind of in the same boat here, but
So, listen, I'll get into what my thoughts about Oregon here in just a bit, but I do think Dylan Gabriel is going to be right there. If I had to pick a top 3, he would be in it. And I think a lot of it has to do with, although they are in a tougher conference, obviously coming to the Big Ten, their schedule isn't that strong. They do, obviously, they play Michigan, Ohio State, but outside of that, it's a pretty favorable schedule. And my pick for the Heisman is Jalen Milroe. And I think basically because you can almost book it every other year, you're probably gonna have an Alabama quarterback winning this thing. And I think I think that Kalen DeBoer's offense is gonna open him up. And I think he's gonna I think he's going to take it. But there's one person that I think can make a case for it. And hear me out before you call me a homer.
Fucking Homer.
There's been a certain running back that has been sitting behind the greatest running back in Michigan history in Blake Corum. Is Donnie Edwards. Dude, for the last 2 seasons, has played minimally, right? I mean, he's been a major part of the offense. His passing ability, he could pass the ball, he could catch the ball, he could run the ball. He's some of the biggest runs in Michigan history over the last several years when it comes to against Ohio State and Washington. Some of the biggest plays out of the backfield. He's going to get an opportunity. Obviously, it's Michigan. They're always going to have running backs. He's going to have an opportunity to be the number 1 guy. I could see him scoring 30 touchdowns this year.
Let me give you a stat.
Like, I really can.
Let me give you a stat for him. 37 games, 68 receptions, 1,600 yards. Not the starter.
Yeah,
not the starter. That's starter people's numbers for other colleges. And this dude's
and what's funny about it, on me and my brother-in-law always made a joke last year. We're doing like prize picks or whatever it is that we're doing, and I'm always like, Blake Corum to 2 touchdowns. Put him on the board for 2 touchdowns. If it's an over-under 1.5, take the over every single time. So he didn't even really get the opportunity to. He never got goal line work. He never got the inside the 10 work. He is going to come into an offense that is smash mouth, run the ball offense. I mean, they can look. They might go to Tech. They might have Texas come into Ann Arbor in September and run it 40 times in a row, and he's going to get 35 of those carries. The other aspect to this that people probably aren't thinking about outside of people in Ann Arbor or people like me is Alex Orji as the quarterback. We're assuming he's going to be the starter. We seem like he's going to be there. He can run the ball with the best in the country, in my opinion. JJ's been able to run the last couple of years, but he's not a runner, right? He's more of a traditional, efficient passer. Alex Orji is going to open this thing up more than it ever has. So as far as the running lanes and everything for Donnie, don't be surprised if we're not sitting there in that finalist and you got Donnie Edwards sitting there. Obviously, they feel bad for Alabama, so it's probably going to be an Alabama quarterback that wins the trophy at the end of the day because they're sad about Nick Saban. But don't be surprised if Donnie's sitting there with Sharon Moore in the crowd when this award goes down.
Here we go.
I didn't even mention running backs, man, and quietly, like, I wanted to put them on as my list, but quarterbacks seem to always be the ones that go.
That's right.
Like let's talk about Ollie Gordon, man. Ollie Gordon is scary good at OSU. Scary good. Like, that team's only gotten better. So that's like, I just didn't put a running back up there. Just at the end of the day, whatever reason, I don't even know the last time a quarterback didn't win it. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Well, there's been a lot of Alabama running backs. Brad could probably tell you.
When was the last non-quarterback
It just
winner?
feels to me like Horton keeps talking about Oklahoma State. Feels to
I'm
me
not an OU
I haven't
fan.
seen.
I'm not an OU
I
fan.
know, but Oklahoma State keeps getting brought up. I feel like when we see that top 12,
oh, they're on there. You're going to be blown away when
Are
you see
they
my
there?
top 12. Oh yeah, they're there. They're
okay,
winning. They're
I
winning.
was starting to have that feel like
We're gonna
I
have to
feel
jump
like they're
into
going to be there.
Well, you're trying to run your mouth on me, Brad. We'll go ahead and flop it to you, and you can go ahead and explain your bracket to us because it's already going to be up here on the screen here. In a second.
Oh, we're going there. Okay, well,
It's there. It's all on you now, Brad.
So look, in the end, right? You can see it. Homerism kicks in, but
God dang the homer! I got
so
two
look,
homers I'm dealing with over here, man.
Look, because I could see it going either way. When I get down to it, right, I could see it going either way. But the way I'm looking, like, let's just talk. I'll kind of break it down in this way for me. I got Bama. I told Anthony the other day, I feel like Georgia's probably going to come into Bryant Denny and beat us in the regular season. That's what it feels like to me. This is kind of the way that they kind of traditionally work out. It feels like they kind of bounce back and forth. It feels like they're probably going to come in and beat us in the regular season. And then I feel like when we get to SEC championship time, it feels like DeBoer is going to have us rolling. Jalen's going to be rolling, right? All the things are going to be clicking. And so I feel like I in the end, I feel like Bama's going to beat Georgia in that game. And so that kind of catapults whoever wins that game into the top 2, the way I see things.
Before you kick anything off, I just want to love and point out the fact that you didn't even put Michigan into the playoffs.
Well, there's, look,
I love it's crazy.
I,
Wow.
we also,
stab
Anthony and I,
in the heart,
yeah.
baby.
Well, we're just going to go for it. Anthony and I talked about it. I'm kind of back and forth. I believe in Oregon, right? I really do. Um, I kind of feel like Penn State's going to be strong this year. I really do. In the Big Ten, I feel like Penn State's had some great additions. They've added a great offensive coordinator, a great defensive coordinator. They made a big splash there. I feel like they're going to be better. So the way I kind of see the Big Ten stacking out is Ohio State, Oregon kind of bouncing back forth. I see Ohio State kind of being the big dog there. They're just built to go. It appears. So I kind of see it going Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan. I know that Anthony doesn't want to hear that. That's the way I feel. It could go either way. Michigan could end up in the top two, right? I mean, it really could. I just feel like there's a big adjustment. I know that it feels the same, but they had just as big a player loss as Alabama, right? And they had some studs go on to the NFL. So breaking down the ACC, like I mentioned earlier, I don't feel like Clemson's going to end up there. I see Florida State being able to beat Miami, so I got Florida State in. Big 12, I was, man, I'm back and forth, but it just feels to me every year Utah in the end, when it comes to the end, the playoff time, they're ready to go, right? And Rising he's a good quarterback. So that's my four champions. Group of five automatic. I see Boise State. You know, sorry Boise State. Guess what you run into? Georgia.
Big dog
Not going to
Georgia.
last long, right? So in the 8-9 slot, I see Texas and Penn State kind of getting in the way I mentioned. Texas, they're going to be good, but I feel like they're going to end up, probably a two-loss team. Not in the SEC championship game, but they'll be able to get in. 6-11 game, I see Notre Dame and Ole Miss. I see Ole Miss with Dart being able to beat them. It is what it is. Lane he's great, right? And I think him and Dart will be able to get them there. I see them also as a two-loss team during the regular season. But I see them in. In the 7-10 game, I've got Oregon and Miami. I feel like Oregon will beat them. So the way I got my final eight: Georgia versus Utah, Texas, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Florida State, Oregon, Bama. Final four, right? I feel like Georgia, Ohio State, they're on a collision course. Florida State, Bama, and then in the end, I'm a Bama guy. So I got Bama eking out Ohio State. I know that nobody's going to believe that, but we've still got some skill guys, right? I mean, we've got Kendrick Law, we've got Kobe Prentice, we've added Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams he's going to bring it, right? We've got a two-headed monster in the backfield with Justice Haynes and Jam Miller, and Jalen is going to be something to deal with, fellas. So roll Tide, roll. Let's go.
You said one thing that I got to talk about. When you talked about Ohio, you said, as it appears. That's every year, bro.
Yep.
Every year it's on paper. Every year it's on paper. Oh, they're supposed to be so good. They got the best defensive front. And every single year, they haven't beat Michigan since 2019.
Yeah.
You think, maybe the addition to Chip Kelly, but every single year this team's supposed to be great. I mean, and we don't get me started on 2016 when they were both 11-0 and the BS spot with Justin Fields at quarterback. Like,
man, it feels like we're transitioning to another Homer pick.
Yeah, we're going to be. We're going to be. The only thing I'm going to say before we transfer over to Anthony's, because it sounded Homer as hell. Not what I thought. What you think I said? But besides that, I think I understand the Alabama thought. I really do. I just think that Alabama prays to God they don't see Georgia in the championship. Because if they do beat Alabama to win the SEC, they don't want to see Alabama. Or excuse me, they don't want to see Georgia in the national championship, because that second game, me and Anthony we were all talking about 3 games possibility. Like, you're going to play them once in the season, once in the championship, and then once in the NCAA championship. Like, maybe you beat them twice in the season, and you get to that final game, man, it's going to be a different, and just like Michigan.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like Michigan,
it's hard to beat a team 2 or 3 times.
I couldn't imagine beating them 3. How many times is it hard to beat them twice? You just gotta be like Michigan though and steal signs in the championship.
Oh, let's
God.
go. Let them know, Morgan.
Oh my gosh.
I'll go an investigation, man. Hold on.
Go
Hey,
ahead.
Hey,
No.
run right.
Listen, before we
Power
go
35.
to my bracket,
Power
I gotta say
35.
one thing.
Power 35.
You could say what you want about the sign stealing. Everybody steals them. But secondly, this came out before the Penn State game.
Yeah.
So if Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State, Iowa, Alabama, and Washington didn't change their signs at that point, I mean, what are we doing? Right? So I don't think anything with the sign stealing had anything to do with that playoff run. Did it maybe help against Ohio State the year before? Good.
I will
But-
say they did say.
Man, I feel like we're talking to an Astros fan right now as a Dodger
Listen,
fan.
Stop
at the end of the day, they all agreed, man. Sign stealing is a norm. Everybody does it in their own little way. They all just said Michigan took it a whole trash can beat normal in a whole different kind of way. Just hit the trash can, baby.
Just
You
did it
know,
better
let
than
them know.
everybody.
Their
Yeah, better than
drones were
everybody.
better.
As he leaned over and said, "They're running right."
Sorry, they did it better than everybody else.
no,
Not
you-
sorry. Put my bracket
You're
up.
good.
Tyler.
All right, yeah, let's get Anthony's bracket up here with Michigan, the homer, taking it all as always.
So, listen, I'm gonna start here. I think Liberty probably has the weakest schedule. I think I looked at a strength of schedule. They got like 100 and out of 134 ranked teams, they're 131st. They got the fourth easiest schedule in the entire country. So I think they probably run the table and get in and get mollywopped by Bama. But my biggest, everyone said I've been hating on Oregon. And I think I have Oregon going just as far as everybody else. But what I think is I don't think they're going to win the Big Ten. I don't even necessarily know if they're going to be in the Big Ten championship game. And the reason for that is I think there's going to be an adjustment period on the defensive and offensive front. The defense and offensive front and the physicality on the O-line and D-line in the Big Ten, specifically with Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, is just different than anything they've seen in the past. It's just different. And when you watch the games, it's different. It's similar if they were to go O-line, D-line at Alabama, Georgia. Very similar. I don't think they've seen that. And I think when they run into those teams, it's going to be different. So are they going to need another recruiting cycle, another offseason to build that up? Yeah, I think so. I think they're going to be really good for a long time. So I don't necessarily hate on them. I just don't see them being in the Big Ten championship game. Just diving. Listen, there's really not a whole lot you could say about my bracket. I'm gonna go right to the championship game, right to the semifinals. What better semifinals? I mean, this is made for TV stuff right here. You got Georgia and Alabama. I agree with almost everything Brad's saying when it comes to Alabama. I think Jalen Milroe is going to open it up. I think that offense they're going to be very fun to watch. I think they're still Alabama. And when it comes to Michigan and Ohio State, this is where my head is. Years ago, a very wise man said, when you wake up on third base and you think you hit a triple. These guys in Ohio State have always been so entitled. They're so entitled. They think they're the best team on paper, always on paper. But what people don't see is that you get, when you overextend yourself, you spend a lot of money, come with expectations. And they got this quarterback coming in from, was it Kansas State, we said, Tyler? Will Howard. I mean, we'll see, right? Like, it's not like they went out and got, a Dylan Gabriel or anything like that. So I think they're throwing a lot of darts and they hope some of them hit. But at the end of the day, Michigan still has a top 3 defense in the country, one of the best defensive lines, probably have the best cornerback in the country, and Will Johnson. I think Donnie Edwards is going to open it up along with Alex Orji. A lot of things have changed, but also nothing has changed. Their process, their offense, their play calling. And by the way, they lost their defensive coordinator, but who do they get? They get Wink Martindale. an NFL defensive coordinator to come in and run that defense, which is the same exact style defense they've been running for years. So all these players that they've kept and they've recruited to play this style, it's the same defense. So although everything's changed, nothing's changed. And if they can get average quarterback play, which let's call it what it is. I love JJ. I think he's going to be a really good pro. That's what we got last year. We got average, efficient quarterback play. If we can get that along with open the offensive up with the read option with Donnie Edwards, I think they're going to be inviting people into a phone booth for a fist fight. And not many teams could do that. I can't take credit for that. I heard that somewhere else, but that's the truth. They're physical. They'll run the ball 30, 40 times in a row. Look what they did against Penn State. It offsets those pass rushes. And I think when you get into December and you've played 12 games, 13 games, 14 games, 15 games, the weather's cold in some of these areas, especially when you have the home games and for the playoff that we didn't even really talk about how these teams get home games. What travels the most? Running the ball, defensive line play, and that I think Michigan has the best in the country.
I don't disagree. I definitely don't disagree.
So I love your final two. I do, obviously for obviously reasons.
Fucking homers.
I forgot to mention we got a fucking center that can snap a ball. That came with the board. I can't wait. That shit's not gonna happen again. He can actually snap. So you know what? We're gonna remove that part from the game, and we'll see how it goes.
And then I think the biggest takeaway is I can't wait to see Milroe play, and I think he's gonna win the Heisman. And I do see. I very much agree with I think they lose early. I think there's gonna be an adjustment period for Alabama because a lot has changed there. But I think they'll figure it out throughout the season. I think Georgia beats them. We said it's hard to beat a team twice. I don't think they beat them twice, right? Georgia beats them early and Alabama gets them late. But this is my biggest thing. Alabama's season ends the exact same way it ended last year. Kalen DeBoer's season ends the same way it did last year. They had to join forces to try to beat Big Blue. And it ain't happened.
We've agreed most of the day, but we're going to disagree.
Back to back.
I should have went, you know what, the center for Heisman. Brailsford for Heisman.
God, give me a break.
Let's go.
Well, I'm gonna fold it over since you guys are super homers, and I'm unfortunately gonna be slight of a homer of the AP. At the end of the day, I do think Georgia is gonna win the whole thing. But there's some talking points I want to put in here. I am an Alabama fan of the sense of I think they got ballers on that team. My only problem was agreeing with what Anthony said. It's different. Everybody says it's different. All the analysts are saying it's different. They show up. It just seems different. And they don't know why. Obviously, we know why. There's new coaching, different changes. Unfortunately, I think Bama I think they're going to show up and get a surprise loss to Ole Miss. I really do. I think it's going to be a shocker when that game, and that's just me thinking.
They play?
Well, I'm talking about this is them making the
this playoff.
This is my playoff. I think Alabama is going to have to go to Ole Miss and play in Ole Miss. Talking about home field advantage, it changes things to travel in this country. And I just think Ole Miss has a good, like I said, I've talked up, their quarterback. I think they've got a good squad. They've got a lot of returning players. I'm a little worried about their amount of offense they can put up, but I still think they're going to be good. I do think Texas is going to jump in. Tulane's going to squeak in there, like I said, be that 5th overall, but they're going to hit Texas real hard and get smoked, in my opinion. My surprise team, and this is where we talk about OSU. I think OSU,
there they are.
In my opinion, they're going to win the Big 12, man. They're going to win the Big 12.
He didn't even pick them against Texas.
I did not, because I still think at the end of the day, Texas is the better team. I think OSU's good in the Big 12. Texas, SEC, they're just going to be better. They're just going to show up and be better. And obviously Georgia is, I mean, we've all talked, Georgia and Ohio has been in almost all of our brackets. And like I said, it's hard to beat Ohio. At the end of the day, I think Michigan's good. I think, the Irish are good. They're going to eventually compete here. But once again, Michigan, young, new quarterback, new coach, just a lot of new pieces I do think the defense is still going to be top 3. You just got to hope your quarterback is going to show up and be a guy that can run that team and really push it. I think running back may carry him. If Edwards can carry him, I may be wrong in this pick. I think Michigan may be able to run the board. Same with Bama. If Milroe can carry the team, but we're relying on new players to these teams. Like they're the new starter. They're the new guys. Like it's just I like Georgia in the sense of you've got Carson Beck. You come on, Kirby Smart. Can we agree that he's one of the, if not the best coach now in college football with Nick Saban leaving, like 42-2, 2 national championships in the past 3 seasons. Like the dude is just a genius at college football.
I think we'd be lying if we were saying either of us were saying that we weren't excited when Georgia didn't make the playoff last year.
No,
Like
man.
neither of us wanted to see.
I was happy. I just didn't. I was glad it was 2 different teams that we haven't got to see in a long time. Like it was a good time.
Yeah.
And here's the problem. I think that pissed off Kirby, in my opinion, and I think it's going to be a very shockingly good Georgia team. I mean, they've been great for the last 3 years. I hate saying it, but in my opinion, they've only gotten better. They got the transfer from Florida, Trevor Etienne. I can't say his last name.
Yeah.
Is it Etienne?
Etienne, there you go. Yeah, he's just another elite running back that's coming over to just back up that squad. But with my Final Four, like I said, I believe in Oregon, man. I do. I really believe in Oregon making it to that Final Four. Dylan Gabriel, but unfortunately, I think they're going to get cut short. I do say, and this is one thing I talked about Clemson. You said Clemson can have a down year. I don't think they will. I think that they need their quarterback to blossom. If he does not blossom, they will definitely flatline. But if
this is it for him. I mean, he said if he's going to blossom, it's now or never.
That's what I'm saying. That's why this is like, I feel like this is that moment. It's a now moment. If he wants a chance to show he can be a college quarterback and really be a thing here, he can do it this year. Make it. Unfortunately, they're going to run into a really good Oregon team and just get there's just better teams there. Clemson's good, just not that good. My Final Four is going to round off Georgia, Texas, Ohio, and Oregon. With Oregon losing to Ohio and Georgia beating Texas. And I just said, like, I think this will be the last year. I think Georgia's going to be good this year. Next year will be a year where they kind of probably take a step back. Having Beck, a returning quarterback, it's just hard to not think they're going to not be really fucking good. Like, at the end of the day, they've got everything they need. It's literally the only one that scares me as well is Ohio. Like, it was the Michigan of last year. Michigan, how many seniors did they have and returners did they have to make that massive run? And they just looked so damn good. J.J. McCarthy, they just looked good. Michigan did last year, so good. And obviously it showed. They won. They won the whole thing. Ohio doing the same thing. Got a lot of returners. I think I typed it down here. I can't remember the exact number. It's an insane amount. They've got their starting running back.
They had a ton of people. They had a ton of people come back, and they had the Travion Henderson didn't go to the pros.
Yeah,
they had another running back sign. I mean, it's
They
like
had
Avengers.
Caleb Downs.
It's like in game. Yeah.
Emeka Abuka, I think that's how you say his name. Their starting wide receiver. He's still there. That's Ohio's doing what Michigan did, and I read somebody's tweet. And it was something about the team. The players got together because they want to win one. They want one. So these guys had opportunities to go to the pros, and they would have been picked in the top 3-4 rounds, and they chose to stay and get that shot because they really think it's gonna be a slugfest. I think that's
probably one of the things about NIL that we didn't really touch on is that it is allowing these players to decide to come back and stay, right? Like they don't have to go to the pros to make some of that generational money or get their families out of tough spots or buy a house or whatever it is. They can stay for their senior year or their junior year or whatever it is because they're making money anyway. So it's not obvious that these players are going to go. And I think that had a lot. Obviously we could talk about Ohio State this year, Michigan last year, but like, I think that bodes well for college football because you're going to get players that are staying. You're going to see similar players on the field from year to year. better for the fan base, better for the common fan, right? Because you're going to see
Yep.
that same quarterback from the year before. So I have one question before we wrap this up. Each and every one of us, I believe, if I can't remember Brad's bracket, had Notre Dame. But did you have Notre Dame, Brad?
I did.
Yes, he did.
But none of us picked them to win a game.
No,
Oh.
Why is that?
it's
And
the way.
is it? I know their schedule's super soft.
Yeah, they're like
but they did get right.
57th in the strength of schedule.
Yeah, but that's. I mean, that's. Oh, Ohio has a softer schedule than they do. I mean, don't get me started on that soapbox. But they got Riley Leonard right from Duke, played quarterback, and I like their coach. I think they have a pretty good defensive front. But why is it that the Irish are always there, but can't just there, right?
They're kind.
What do you think
To
it is,
me,
Brad?
they're kind of like the Cowboys, right? They're kind of looked. I don't know. They're on
Yeah.
TV every week. They're on NBC. Everybody knows they're going to be on, right? We get to see them every week. They just have that name, and with that schedule, the way they're able to set things up with being a non-conference team, they're able to pick and choose. And it just feels like they're going to end up with it's one loss, two loss, and being Notre Dame, they're going to get in, and being Notre Dame, they're going to get eliminated because they don't stack up with teams like the SEC and the Big Ten, right? I mean, we all ended up with our Final Four with two SEC and two Big Tens, right?
Well,
Yeah.
that's who
That's
rules
the
college football.
heavyweights. That's what's going to happen. You can reduce the number. You can add the number. You can make this a 60-14 bracket. You're going to
It's
end
still
up
gonna be, yep,
with those
SEC.
teams, right? That's the way it's going to go. And Notre Dame just doesn't stack up. They can't get on that field and stack up with those teams. It just doesn't happen. I don't see it happening. Just like normal.
Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule real quick. I'll tell you that way that we have a little bit of a. I'm looking at their schedule here. They go to A&M to open up. Like I could see that being a loss. They host Florida State, and then they end their season at USC.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's Northern Illinois, it's Navy, Virginia, it's Army, it's Purdue, which obviously any Big Ten team is going to be tough. But yeah, I don't know. I've always been interested in that team. They don't. They're not in a conference, so they're not even on an easy path to get in. But between them, yeah, I don't know. They're always such an interesting team that should be pretty good, as it appears. That's going to be the word of the day. Words of
Yeah.
the day, as it appears.
It is, but let's like Brad hammered it in my opinion on the head with the fact that they're the only team that can really like create their own schedule that allows them to look like they played some good teams, but in reality, like if USC falls off, they're playing if USC falls out of the 25, they're playing a non-25 team. If Texas A&M falls out of the 25, who are they going to play that's in the top 25?
Yeah. Like
but
I'm in A&M's area.
Somehow they end up in the top 12 every time. And I just still always want, they always have a good defense. I think we can agree. Irish is always known for good defense. They make good defensive players. They always have good linebackers that come out of that school. The problem to me is that offense inconsistency. It's always inconsistent. It's so good one week, and then they turn around and flop like the next week. And yeah, I like the coach there. I think he's a good coach, Marcus Freeman, but he's 19-7 in 2 years. That's not very good. And a team that's been in the top 25 every year. How does that happen? I don't understand. But it's like it's that independent, get to make your own, schedule. And let me throw USC in there. That's kind of, which has always been their thing, because USC's always been a good school. When was the last time the Irish played Michigan? Because I know that used to be a game.
It's coming up. It's coming up here in a couple of years. I think they renewed it.
That's what I'm saying. Is like how the Irish fall into the. I think they'll be good this year. I do like the Duke transfer, Riley Leonard. I do like their wideout transfer, Chris Mitchell. The defense, like I said, defense is always good. It's just they have 2 road tests. If they lose to A&M and USC, they don't make the 12.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm predicting they beat both of them. I'm predicting somehow the Irish are undefeated at the end of the year, and that's why they make it. Because they're, once again, how many times do they go undefeated? And that's why they make, the Final Four or the top 2. But we go look at their schedule. Who the fuck did they play? How are they in the top 3 or top 4? Who the fuck did they play? Oh, they played a depleting fucking USC team 4 years ago or 5 years ago when they're in those conversations. It's a disrespect to all the other teams that are in the SEC or in the Big 12 or in the fucking Big 10. Like, it's disrespectful to those teams that are playing 5 teams in the top 25, 4 teams in the top 25. Oh, but Irish gets to set a schedule and, oh, they're just going to squeak right in. I just don't. It's always confused me.
So A&M, they're right in my area. They're. It's going to be tough this year. It doesn't feel like they're going to be strong. Connor Wegman's got. He's got a little bit to him, but it just feels like Notre Dame's got a cakewalk like normal. So we'll see how it goes. They're going to get smoked in the playoffs, though.
Like
My last comment is I think Ohio State has a weaker schedule than Notre Dame. I want you to think about that. When you look at strength of schedule, Ohio State has a easier schedule than Notre Dame. How pathetic is that? How pathetic is that, brother?
I mean, I guess I could see it. At the end of the day, when I kind of looked at the strength of schedules and the top 12 I had, like, Michigan's in the top 10 of their schedule. Alabama's right around 11 or 10. And Georgia's 9. Like, all these teams in our top 12, they don't even have tough, like, the highest stuff. Like, look at OU. I think they have either the number 1 or the number 4. They're up there.
Yeah, I had them at number 4.
Like, I think actually it was Florida. I think Florida has the hardest schedule this year. They do. And they haven't really been. I know they have chances to be good, but like OU, good luck. You're coming over to a powerhouse, conference, and you're not getting it easy. Yeah. It's gonna be some smash mouth football. I'm excited, man. I'm super excited.
All right, on, man. Let's wrap this thing up. We're right a little over an hour, but yeah, I think that's all we got, guys.
Yeah,
this is fun, man. This is fun. Happy birthday, Cuzzo. Happy birthday, man.
Happy birthday, Anthony.
Thanks, man.
Always.
Thanks, guys.
Once again, I'm Tyler. The other old man down here is Brad. Got Anthony, birthday boy right here. Thanks for jumping in and joining us. Hopefully we can keep this going every week. It's gonna be a lot of work, but we're planning on diving in. Other than that, y'all have a good night. See you guys later.
Thank you.